Hi everybody, welcome and thank you for being here and sticking it out with me. No long intros today because I have a variety of things to chat to you about. We'll continue our more serious discussions later in the week. Okay, I'm going to start with the king. But don't despair, we will swiftly move on to other things. The news came that King Charles's Christmas speech was outranked on television by Wallace and Gromit, amongst other shows. According to a few royal watchers and royal commentator Daniela Elser, the negativity towards the king likely stems from the news and ensuing pressure over the millions of rent he receives from renting land back to the government and to charities. It is also likely that Harry's return to England for an appearance in the courtroom also has an effect on the public. So yes, if you are having a bad start to the year, then spare a thought for King Charles. His is not much better either. Doing what I'm doing and doing it practically and for all intents and purposes since 2019, I hear, or rather read via DM and email, a lot of things that even if it was true, we'll never ever read in mainstream media. But how do I verify any of it? And if I cannot even halfway verify it, should I then even mention it? And that's a good question. Well, I would say more than likely not, but all I can say right here, right now, is that I have heard quite a bit since making these videos, and for the last few weeks, none of the news and gossip about the king had been positive. For a while after his cancer announcement, there was a reprieve, and obviously there was a lot of empathy or sympathy for him. But there's also only so much empathy people can conjure up if they themselves are actually struggling. So I would say that King Charles's popularity and approval rating slowly started dropping and falling since July, August 2024. I think there is a real struggle going on, not only as a monarchy, but also as a family. I am actually expecting to hear that Anne will start lightening her load as from the middle or the end of this year. I think that there had been some health concerns by members of her family, and that her children in particular would be very relieved if she does start to take things a tad easier and slower. However, it is apparently, allegedly, not the only reason why she would consider slowing down a bit. I'm told that there had been a fairly serious disagreement between Anne and Charles over a shooting weekend hosted by Andrew, and that was already a year or more ago. From what I hear, the disagreements have actually escalated. I'm told that just as they do not agree on King Charles's treatment of Andrew, Anne is also not happy with Charles turning Balmoral into more of a tourist attraction and opening it up to the public for longer. Anne would have wanted what the Queen wanted, and that would be for it to stay the family hideout and private. So I don't know what to tell you, except that there were some fairly robust rows between Charles and Edward and Sophie the year before the Queen passed away, and right into the month or so before her passing. As a matter of fact, they were, and I'm talking about Edward and Sophie, were sent on holiday, told to take a breather in July 2022, and it appears that the peace had been restored since then. Allegedly, Charles and Sophie had indeed appeared as if they had buried the hatchet. But according to certain people, Edward will do his duties, but not necessarily for the sake of his brother, the king. Anyway, guys, the officers and staff at the palace will all be back at their desks in the coming week. So I think that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll somehow catch up on what is actually happening in the royal family. Okay, so let's talk Meghan and Harry. Yes, they turned up at the Pasadena Convention Center. Now, there's a little bit of misconception here, and I have said it before. If we want to do battle with Harry and Meghan, we have to stick to the truth. Because if we lie, we are lowering ourselves to their level. And then we can hardly criticize them, can we? Anyway, it is not quite true that they only spent 17 minutes at the convention center. The footage we saw was later in the day. Harry and Meghan was there earlier along with Jennifer Newsom. They were both wearing masks while handing out food, and very few people, including the Fox News anchor, noticed or recognized them. Only later, when they heard that Meghan and Harry were at the convention center, they looked back on the footage and recognized Meghan. Although I cannot tell you what they donated, they also did make donations or a donation. I was told they made 2 donations in particular, one being to the World Central Kitchen, and then the other one I don't know. Okay, so they did do a stint handing out food parcels alongside Newsom's wife. Then they left. I'm not sure whether that was when they went rubbernecking or where they went, but they came back to meet with the mayor of Pasadena, Victor Gordo. The second time, they did indeed only stay for between 15 and 20 minutes. Why they returned for a second time, I do not know. Was it because Meghan found out they were not recognized and not filmed while handing out food? Or was it because they heard the mayor would be there? They did not get their photo opportunity with Newsom and or his wife, so they returned for a photo with the mayor. Maybe that's why. I mean, maybe Meghan even phoned a paparazzi or 2 on their way back and said, "Hey guys, you know, obviously you haven't noticed, but I was there." They said, "Oh, we'd love to take a photo of the 2 of you. So could you perhaps go back," or something like that, and they did for the photo opportunity. Anyway, that is only speculation, but it was indeed the second time they went back that they only stayed 15 minutes. Anyway, before you start thinking I am advocating for Harry and Meghan, let me tell you what I saw and why I'm saying what I'm saying. What I saw was a woman with no soul, none, an empty vessel. Mayor Gordo can say what he wants about them, just wanting to help, but although it could be true of Harry, although I doubt it, but it isn't for Meghan. It can't be, because there is no soul, no depth in her, and in these clips it actually manifests even more and clearer than ever before. You do not even have to be an expert in body language to see it. I mean, so we see Meghan listening to a woman talking and obviously distressed. Harry is also listening intently. Meghan goes in and gives the woman a full-on body hug, both arms around her shoulders. I mean, oh yeah, she did that with the mayor as well, who seemed rather uncomfortable when Harry followed suit. I wish the two of them would learn that not all people are comfortable being hugged like that. I know, because I'm one of them. Even when it comes to loved ones, I prefer the sideways air kiss kind of hug. Just a light touch. Intimate, but not uncomfortable and smothering. I hate that. I hate being smothered by someone. And there are a lot of people like me who feel exactly the same. I know people who are rather tactile in their relationships, but these full body hug, arms around the neck, is uncomfortable and not comforting at all. And therefore, even these tactile people do not really like that. Imagine you are 5'5" or even 5'6" or even 5'7", and Harry comes with his 6'1" and engulfs and basically swallow you up in his body. I mean, it's awful. He's a stranger, even if he's a prince. I really do not want to smell strangers' breath and armpits. And I was told ages ago that Meghan has a bit of a sweat problem, and one which can smell rather nasty from time to time. And once when I noticed that a number of people backed away from her and I asked the contact why, she said, well, that you do not want Meghan bending over your shoulder when you are working because her breath does not always smell too fresh. Someone who attended Invictus in The Hague also mentioned that Meghan's breath smelled stale and like smoke. Well, actually, they said she smelled like a dirty ashtray and strong, cheap perfume. Okay, but I mean, I digress, so let's move on. Anyway, so after the bear hug, Harry and the mayor and the woman are still talking, but Meghan is now clearly done. She juts out her chin and walks off. Then she intervenes in a conversation between a group of other women. Of course, she can't wait for them to finish talking. She actually physically interrupts by tapping the woman on her arm and asks something. The woman clearly does not recognize Meghan and just gestures like, over there. Meghan bends down behind a table, but a man approaches her. She comes up with nothing in her hands. So what was she doing? What did she want? The woman clearly showed her where whatever she asked for was, so why didn't she take anything? The entire scenario reminded me of the time when she was caught scratching in William's car at the polo match. She had very similar body language and a sort of oh shit look on her face. I watched her interact with people, and I mean, she's so awkward among people, like a dithering klutz, except when she has everyone's attention. Then she's confident and in the center of her own universe. But when she's not, she's awkward and makes me think of a wandering fart, one that wanders from nostril to nostril and everyone is backing away from it. And then I read something Andy of Tarot by Andy posted on Instagram, and it hit home like a ton of bricks. And I'm going to read it to you, or at least an extract from it. When someone lacks empathy, they often struggle to connect with others on an emotional level, leading to difficulty understanding or responding appropriately to the feelings of others, which can make them feel isolated, disconnected, and unsure how to interact in social situations, essentially leaving them not knowing what to do with themselves when faced with someone else's emotional needs. Oh boy, that is exactly what I saw when I watched Meghan in these clips, 100%. And those were more or less my thoughts. Before I read this on Andy's Instagram, this was just putting my thoughts more eloquently and clearly. For a woman of 43, Meghan has no identity or self-image. She has no clue who she is or even wants to be. And that is also why she plagiarizes, copies and lies, because she has to reinvent herself all the time. And with each situation or event she finds herself in. I mean, she can't just walk in and adapt. No. For a 43-year-old woman, she is amazingly immature, sometimes to the point of being juvenile. Her body language and actions sometimes reminding me of a rather immature, childlike 12-year-old. To watch these short video clips was a strange experience, almost unreal. Watching Meghan becoming agitated, jutting out her chin when Harry steps up and speaks to someone. I mean, honestly, I'm just waiting for the day she becomes completely unhinged and throws a huge tantrum in public. I know that Meghan would never listen to anyone, but she would be so much better off sending money, sending food, and staying home. Of course they were taken to survey the damage. I mean, really? Survey the damage? For what? Neither of them are architects, builders, or engineers, and neither have the money to really help. I mean, help like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and that crowd. I would not call what Harry and Meghan did surveying the damage, but rather call it rubbernecking, or here in South Africa in Afrikaans we call it kyk, which is actually short for kyk daar, or in English, look there. So nosy people who are constantly calling out, kyk daar, look there, are called kyk. Yes, I get the impression Harry and Meghan were nothing more than kyk. Okay, another thing. Pasadena is 94 miles from Montecito, so I do not think the fire will naturally spread all the way to Montecito. But the investigation into these huge fires popping up all over the place has not been completed yet. And there is indeed a chance that it could be malicious or sabotage. As far as I know, 3 people have so far been arrested under suspicion of starting fires. Now look, not only is America under threat due to the wars in Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, etc., but there are many mentally ill people around. People who are pyromaniacs, who are triggered by seeing these fires on television and who can't resist the urge to start their own fire. People who are triggered by the attention victims are getting and who desperately want to be part of it. I mean, yes, it sounds terrible and it sounds almost impossible, fantasy, but it is not. There's also large-scale looting going on. I don't know how many have been arrested, but a significant number of people. So under these circumstances, Harry and Meghan actually leave their 2 children at home. Do I really need to go, what if, or, do I? Anyway, they supposedly opened their home to friends who had to evacuate. But then these stressed out people arrive and Harry and Meghan leave. I do not think there's anyone staying with them except maybe Doria and Marcus, in my humble opinion. Maybe that is why they left, so that if or when someone calls up and want to take them up on their offer, they can say, "Oh, sorry, we're not home at the moment." Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts and feelings. I'll be back as soon as I can with more research, thoughts, and opinions. So until then, please take care and stay safe. Before I go, I have to show you this. I cut the rose bushes back last year in late autumn, and I plonked a handful of cuttings in a bottle of water. Eventually, it looked like 3 of them were actually sprouting roots, and although what looked like roots were tiny, the cleaned cuttings started to sprout leaves. So at some point, I put the 3 of them in pots and kept it damp for a while. Well, 1 did not make it, but 2 did. And guess what? The 1 just had its first flower. I must tell you, I got rather emotional when I saw that. Crazy, but anyway, it's like my babies. Well, guys, that is it. See you soon. Bye.